So ClassWorks can be used for individualized learning. It can be used in small groups in your classrooms with your Tier 2 and Tier 3 students. And it can also be used for whole group. So if you ever have any questions about trying to use it for small group or whole group, I'll be glad to come and help in your classroom. The first thing we want to make sure that we know how to do is to log into ClassWorks. So does everybody usually log into ClassWorks? Or you just let the kids do it? Basically, the kids just do it?
The kids do it, but I haven't. It's just staying on my computer, so I don't remember how to do it.
Okay. All right, so you have it saved on your computer, but you may not log in frequently with it. So I just kind of want to show you just an overview of what ClassWorks looks like. Now, some of the things on my screen may look a little bit different from yours because I can see everybody's in the school and you're just going to see your groups, okay? But it still works exactly the same. The first thing I wanted to talk to you about today was the conferencing and monitoring of. All right, so what I wanted to show you is in ClassWorks, what I do with the students, each class that comes in, we have a set of folders, and I go through the class and I call the child up and we go through their scores. We look at their levels, whatever grade level they're working on, because there's some grade level things that are way too advanced for some of our kids. And then some of them are working on things from primary school that they probably don't even need to be working on. So I want to talk to you a little bit about conferencing and monitoring with your students. Everyone should have classes set up. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to where it says individualized learning, and we're going to click on that tab at the top. You can save that if you want to. And filter through your grade, classes, custom groups. Some have already made custom groups as far as their RTI kids. If you want an RTI 2 group and an RTI 3 group, you can do that, and I will show you how to do that in just a few minutes. But the first thing I do is we pull up our individualized learning, and that's a learning plan that the students have. And this learning plan is made from the MAP test that we give 3 times a year. And so every time they take it, it automatically updates their ILP. And their ILP is their individualized learning plan, if you're not familiar with that. Now, the first student I see is going to be information. So if you need to find out any information about your student, you can click on that. It'll give you the name. The password is already set for them, but if for some reason the password is not there, you can always reset it to student like it's supposed to be.
So the data is from MAP?
Yes, the data comes from MAP, yes. Also, their username is in there, and remember we're using that long 10-digit GTID number, so a lot of kids may already have it saved in their accounts, which is great because that is a hard number to remember. If you look down here at the bottom, it lists the classes that they are in. You'll see that this student is in A Green 1 and A Green ELA, but then they are also in an RTI group because she has she's actually made an RTI group for her students. And I'll just show you what I do while the kids come in here. I'm just going to use this first student here. You should have a blue tab that says Active ILP. And when you click on the Active ILP, you're going to see the 4 domains that they work in. They work in geometry, measurement and data, and this is math, numbers and operations, and the algebraic thinking.
So you clicked on Active ILP?
Yes, you click on Active ILP, and that's going to show you a breakdown of what they work on during class. Now, you can break this down even further, and let's say that I see right here, like in geometry, right now they have a 74% average. So when I open up geometry, I just click on geometry, then you see all the assignments that they are working in, okay? This is all their assignments. Now, when you see all their assignments, you still see there's plus signs beside them. When you click on those plus signs, you open up more assignments, more detail about what they're doing. Now, you're going to notice that this particular student has a lot of red in this area. And so that would be a red flag for me to make sure that I conference with that student. I would pull them to the side, and we notice right here that they only spent 3 seconds on their mini lesson. All right, so that's already telling me that that child did not do what they were supposed to do. And so I would talk to them about, I can see how long you're spending on your assignment. Do you think you've spent enough time on going through the lesson? Because the mini lessons have different things that you click, they have numbers that you drag, so that's going to take longer than 3 seconds. So then I will tell that student, what I'm going to do is I'm going to reassign it to you, and all you have to do is click on assign, and it will reassign that mini lesson to that student. And then that student's aware that, okay, she can see how much time I'm spending on this, and they're going to take a little bit more extra time on it. Then you look at the different activities. Now, some of the activities in classwork are difficult. And they're hard to understand even for adults, trying to figure out where you put this, what do you do here. So I focus some on the activities, but I focus more on the quick quiz grade, because that's where it's going to actually give you the question and 4 choices to choose from to see if you actually understand what the question or the standard is asking you. The little activities are just review. Now, if I'm seeing all of this red though, I'm probably going to be, okay, we need to go back and readdress all of this. They had a 94 out of this. So I would probably go back to that student and conference with them. When they see all this red, they'll go ahead and ask you, can I do that over again? Because they're aware that they don't want those red ones. So we'll go back and reassign it. Also, if you think maybe the activity is a little too hard for that student, you can hover right here in the middle. There's like a little tap. If you hover over that, that will actually tell you the standard and the grade level that they're working on. Okay, and so if it's a 4th grade student and it's a 4th grade standard, then they may just need a little help going through the lesson, may need a little help with the game. But let's say there's been some students that I've had that we've been conferencing on, and I've gone through theirs, and I was going to see if there was anything in here. There's like 6th, 7th, and 8th grade standards listed, but they're a 3rd grader. So there, what I would do is I would actually make sure that they have a, when I click on it, I opened something, let's see. When I click on it, you'll see it either says completed or skipped. So if you think that a student has gotten somewhere that they are too far, it's too advanced for this, you can actually come in here and press skip, and it will take them to the next lessons. And then we can always go back to those skip lessons and reassign them as the year gets further along.
A lot of these too, Krista,
yes,
would be like the symmetry if they haven't learned that yet.
Right.
So they wouldn't understand it, they wouldn't know, so.
Right, and a lot of times
Sometimes does put those activities in there even though they haven't.
there's still activities in it. The good thing about it is the mini lessons will teach them a little bit about it, so it's exposing them to it. So then when they do get it in the classroom, they kind of have a good understanding about where it's at. Now, some of them, you can kind of judge your students. Encourage them to tell you if they are not understanding something, because we found that a lot in the labs, that the students wouldn't tell you that they were struggling with it, and they'll just go and just fail everything. They'll just click, click, click. So, you know, some of them are struggling, and they're learning to say, hey, Miss Krista, I can't do this, you know, can you look at it? And we'll go and look at that standard, and it'll be an 8th grade standard, and they should be working on 4th grade material. So we'll just go in there and skip it.
So how long should these lessons actually last?
Well, it depends. Now, you can actually go into these lessons. You see the blue, how it's highlighted, the mini lesson is highlighted. You can actually click on that mini lesson, and you can do it as a teacher. This is what the students will see. It introduces their mini lesson, and you can press start.
So we can do this on their page without messing them up?
Yes, it will not mess them up. You can actually pull this up with a student, and you can go through the lesson with just that student. You can click on it. If it says show me, you can click on that, and it's going to show them those lines of symmetry.
training, and it did show us like the domains where students scored low on.
Right.
Now, in classworks, can I like go assign, like a lot of my students scored low in geometry,
Okay.
fourth grade on my
All right,
side.
so-
So can I go in and assign them like fourth grade and third grade geometry
Okay.
stuff?
And actually they have geometry stuff. I'm just gonna pull up the student, the same student again. You see that there's different domains here. If you feel like your student is not doing well with geometry and needs help with it, then you can keep that. You see the little green light that's beside it, that means that domain is turned on. If you feel like they do not need any help in measurement, you can come over here to the side. You can click it and turn that off. Those students will not see those assignments anymore until you turn it back on. So you can turn the domains on and off. Okay,
So
does
the
that answer
green
that
dot
question?
means that
The
it's
green dot
active.
means that it's active, that they
Blue
can actually
means
see it.
what?
Oh, you're talking about
The
the
dots.
big green dots. Okay, you're talking about these, okay? If it's a blue dot, that means they are scoring the highest they can possibly score in that domain. If it's green, it's just under it. It's probably like a 90 to a 95. If it's yellow, that means that they are getting near the 70 mark. They might need to slow down some. And then if it's red, they are scoring below mastery level. So that's what the kids look at too. They strive for the green and blue dots. And if they're yellow, they know that they've got to do a little bit of little bit more work. You'll see that this yellow dot is a 60, but the students know that their mastery level is going to be 70 or higher, so they still need to work on that. Are there any questions in this little portion? What I'm going to let you do is, if you have your class pulled up, if you want to pull up a couple of your kids and just kind of expand those scores and see if there might be an opportunity that you could take to conference with those students. And I'll just kind of walk around if you have a quick question.
So let me ask you this, so when I look right here, the standard that it's aligned to. That's the
So it's going to
sixth
be,
grade.
all right, this is a check mark. That
This
means
sort
they
of like classwork's more
And
than
then, so now, right, so I don't let them stop there. So what I do is I go back to geometry, if you'll click on geometry. And then I'll open up all of their assignments. And so this would be a good opportunity to conference. So I have to remind you to switch over so we can look at it. So some of them will get that. I didn't before you get out of it. All right, so when you set up a class, it could be your homeroom, it could be your RTI groups, it could be just a group of kids that you want to work with in a small groups, whatever group you've set up, you can come to the progress monitoring tab and you can pull up that group under your classes, okay, where you've created your class. And then it's going to list those students. And then if they are a RTI under mathematics, then you click under the start buttons with mathematics. If they are progress monitored under ELA, then you would come to the ELA part. Now, these are a couple of students that already have some things assigned to them right here. You can stop it if you think a child does not need to do it, or if something happened, you can stop it. But most likely, we would just keep them going. Here, that TBD, it's just a thing that they have not scored. They don't have 3 consecutive points yet. So their graph is not going to be up to date yet, okay? But out to the side, let me see right here. It's supposed to, okay, this is what I wanted y'all to see. Right here, when I click on that student where they're supposed to be testing, there's a little triangle in the side where it says level 2. When you click that triangle, it expands out. And this is what I was talking to some about the other day. You may have some students that have a horrible day, and they have to take their progress monitoring probe that day. And you know that they needed something else that day. Right here to the side, there's a little icon that you can press note. You can actually type a note about that child that day. So whenever you're looking at their graph and you see a point that scored like really low, and you're like, what happened? You can go and note that, okay, if that student didn't have their medicine that day, or if they got in trouble on the bus, or something. If something happened that day, you can actually note it, so when you're looking at their graph, you'll know what happened. And then also there's like a reassign thing. If the students were on it when they weren't supposed to be within that week frame, you can reassign it so you can actually monitor it
So
closely.
that only lasts for a week.
That will only last a week. So to get your levels, whenever you start progress monitoring, you're going to have different levels. To get this level, you use your MAP scores. There's a chart in MAP that we find their score on MAP, and then we figure out what grade level they're on. So if they're a first grade level, you'll set it to 1. If they're a 5th grade level, you'll set it to 5. Okay. The moderate is already checked. Now, if you feel like a child is way far behind and they really need to be catching up, you can set it to the aggressive, but they just recommend the moderate. Select all the students. All the students are selected. We're going to come over here to generate a report. Okay. All right, we're going to click on individual student, and then we're going to come right here to schedule report. And we are going to click save. And now it's going to give us some information. We want to schedule our reports weekly. And you want them to start when? Do you want them to come to you on Monday mornings? Do you want them to come to you on Friday afternoons? Thank you, Ms. Bailey.
Very informative.
All right.
Very good.
And there's tons.
Very good.